our avid Flow Arts followers. I'm Poppy Tsunami here with Ben Drexler, otherwise known as Drex Factor Poi. And there he is. We are here today to talk about fire safety in the Flow Arts. It's getting a lot of traction recently. We're doing Fire Safety Awareness Week in lieu of the recent disaster.
I just lost you.
In Taipei.
Poppy, I totally just lost you. Shit.
Most of you have heard about it.
Yeah, I'm getting a small snippet of audio, like maybe every 15 seconds. Whoa. Okay, well, audio's coming through now.
All right. Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you.
Mobile didn't work. We just had to fail with that.
Yeah, that's okay. But now I can hear you and see you. Hooray!
Yay! Did we get any of that?
I did not get a single word of it. No. I heard something about we're starting up the week because of the disaster in Taipei, and then just nothing.
Oh, the wonders of modern technology. Okay, great. So once again, to introduce why we're here after the techno fail, the disaster in Taipei, which most of you probably already know about this, but if you don't, it was this very horrendous accident that happened at a rave at a water park in Taipei, and they were spraying this powder that is body paint. It's used in holy celebrations in India, and it covers your body, but it's made of cornstarch, and it's flammable in high quantities.
Mm-hmm.
And the stage lights caught all of the powder that was in the air. There were immense amounts of it on fire, and there were about 500 people injured. So the Flow Arts Institute thought that this would be a good opportunity to raise awareness about what we can do to make sure that as performers, as members of an active fire spinning community, what we can do to stay safe, make sure that people are taking the precautions necessary so that we can mitigate incidents like this. All right, so that's why we're here talking today. And I just wanted to, I guess, maybe ask you, Drex, about your background with fire. How long have you been working with it? How often do you use it?
Sure. So I started spinning fire about 3 months after I picked up Poi, way back in, it would have been 2007. I very specifically, when I started spinning Poi, one of the reasons was that I wanted to spin fire at a friend's wedding that I knew was coming a few months down the road and everything. And so the fire part of it was really important to me. I came up in a community, however, that at the time was not terribly fire safe. Finding out that there was a whole theory behind fire safety was kind of a shock to me when I moved to the East Coast. The group that I first learned how to spin fire with at Confluence Park in Denver, I mean, there was no such thing as a safety spotter. There was no such thing as spin out. I mean, we would dip our tools and then get rid of the excess fuel by, and I'm horrified to admit this, but we'd actually, spin out into the South Platte River, which was right next to. Yeah, because Confluence Park, the place where we were spinning was this big concrete platform that was right next to the South Platte River. We would spin out our fuel into it, which I don't think they do that anymore, thank God. And then, it was just assumed that if anything went wrong, you would go and jump in the river, which was a joke in and of itself because the South Platte is only about waist deep. So not a very safe community. And when I moved to the East Coast, for the first time, I was introduced to the idea of safety spotters and spin out, and making sure that you were not lighting your audience or yourself on fire, kind of thing. And well, no, and for somebody who was coming from a community where it was anything and everything goes, it at first was kind of a rude awakening, and I wasn't sure how I felt about it. I was almost kicked out of a couple fire jams because of it. But eventually, and especially this was a thing that I got from going to wildfire, was just realizing the immense amount of responsibility that we all had to be mutually respectful and create a situation where it's like, yeah, maybe it's a pain in the ass to have a spotter there, maybe it's a pain in the ass to spin out properly and everything, but by doing it that way, you're ensuring that the next 10 people after you are going to be able to come back and spin here. So it is important. And it's become gradually more and more of a point of interest for me, especially in the past year, working with folks like Jim Yurimovich and having chats with Howard Chen about how we handle things like, what's the best structure that we can use for creating a fuel spin-out structure and everything, because I feel like the technology for that is still kind of in its infancy and there's a lot of room for it to grow. But also just creating kind of social mores by which we are ensuring that everybody who's coming up in these communities gets proper safety education and gets to believe that it is their responsibility to get involved in safety, because of course all too often we wind up in that situation where people think it's somebody else's problem. Who's my safety spotter? Not, oh, I had better go spot for that person, kind of thing. And in my mind, even though it's kind of a pain in the butt to have to think about taking yourself away from the community in order to safety for somebody, at the same time, it's something that makes our community very unique and special, that we do have that value of mutual safety and looking out for each other and everything. And it's something that very few other cultures have.
Yeah, it kind of, in a way, stems to the kind of familial experience you might develop, like within the circus community. People in circus are really close because they even shake hands like this, yeah, because that means like, I'll catch you, like I've got you. Mm-hmm. So that, I hadn't thought about, that stigma behind it, that we can further, I don't know, build a sense of responsibility and deepen relationships with one another through fire safety, through making sure, like, I've got you.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's one of those things that there's a difference between, appreciating somebody else's skills and wanting to show them something that you do, and being in a position where you just know it's like, I'm the last line of defense for this person if something goes horrifically wrong. Their life is in my hands in a lot of respects. And that's a very powerful relationship to have.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So how do you think that we as a community can go about further entrenching this safety responsibility? How can we spread it, make it happen? Sure.
I mean, one very positive step that I know is coming up, Howard is going to be leading a conference right before PACFire this year, bringing together many community leaders from all over the country to talk about creating more universal level fire safety standards that will be used across the country. And what I love about this is that it is not going to be, at least my feeling of it is that it's not going to be a situation where people are going to walk in and it's going to be like, these are the standards you all ought to be adopting, but a conversation where people get to kind of say, this is what's been working for us in our particular community. because there's always the line that you have to toe between creating, if somebody moves from one side of the country to the other, arriving in a place where they are going to be prepared for the safety protocols that they're going to encounter there. Like, say, if they move from Colorado to New York City and they discover they need safety spotters and things like that. The thing that I really think is cool about it is that it is that conversation, and it is an opportunity for people who are key figures in the community all over the country to have a role in creating an even larger community that will be countrywide. I think that's a very positive step, and I can't wait to see what's going to come out of that. I think also that, for people who are, I think that once you begin to spin fire, there should be on some level a feeling of personal obligation of, not just how do I do this thing that looks amazing, but how do I become safe? How do I keep myself safe doing it? It's going to be difficult to enforce a thing like that, and it's, more than anything else, it's probably going to be voluntary. But it's my hope that people who lead spin jams, people who put together fire spinning troops, etc., consider part of their work to find out what those appropriate safety standards are, and to instill those in the people that are performing and spinning at their jams and everything. One thing I remember back in the day when I used to go to PEX parties in Philadelphia was, they would ask people to sign up for safety shifts. If you were a performer, it was expected that you were also going to sign up to safety your fellow performers, either at the fuel dump or with a towel or what have you. And I thought that was, a really, really cool way of approaching that, because it put the message out there that it's like, no, this is just as important as your time on stage. So I hope to see more practices like that adopted nationwide, because, again, it's one of those things that there is an opportunity there to create those relationships and to have that feeling of mutual support. I don't know if I came close to answering that question.
You did. I think that was a really good answer. I don't know where. I mean, that would be. It's a pretty good conversation already. But one thing that is concerning with me are, it is important to have a national standard, but with so many flow festivals popping up, that might even be outside of the regular circuit, it is more difficult to enforce standards. People are taking safety classes, but they might be learning incorrect information.
Yeah.
So maybe that's part of what we're doing right now, is just creating awareness that we're developing these standards. And if you have something to add, please tell us. Join our conversation.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I guess anything else that you'd like to add concerning this topic?
I mean, I hadn't actually read up on what had happened. Was it Taipei? Or? Yeah,
it was Taipei.
Yeah, God, what a recipe for disaster. Yeah, many years ago, before I was even involved in spinning fire, I had, an interest in explosives. And it's one of those things that, you learn about how things burn and why they burn at the rates that they burn and everything. And, it sounds like the same kind of setup that you'd have in like a grain silo or something like that, where people think this is a fairly innocuous thing, this dust, and they don't realize that, for example, lamp oil is incredibly innocuous when you have it in a particular volume. But when you atomize it, when you spread it around in the small particles and everything, there is so much surface area to it that if even a little bit of it burns, all of it will burn. And all of that surface area leads to lots more surface area of gases expanding and everything. So yeah, maybe the lesson there is don't assume that it's an innocuous thing, because, well, no, because it's easy for us to, I think that there's a little bit of a danger in that, because we're around substances that do burn so often, we get to thinking that like these are the dangerous things and these are the safe things, and to remember that, you know, even though we might be following these particular safety protocols, that it's always good to be on guard, and it's always good to expect the unexpected, because sometimes the things you don't expect wind up being the problems that you have to deal with. So.
I think that's very wise advice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so thank you for that. I'm going to go ahead and stop the broadcast. And thanks for watching, guys. Be safe when you spin your fire.
Thanks, guys.